Thank you very much for coming to tonight's full council meeting on the 18th of February. Let's get through it as quickly as we can. We've got two members of the public want to speak to us tonight, so it'd be good to give them a good hearing. We've got apologies for absence.
From Councillor Davis, Hudson, Fuller, Arnold and Borden.
Lovely, thank you very much. It's half-term week, of course. There's probably a way of doing things. Are we all okay to accept those? Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest, pecuniary gifts, anything that's relevant? Just in light of one of the topics that's coming up, Cottlestock Meadows residents coming in. I live on St Peter's Road, which is effectively the same road soon to be. Minutes of the previous meeting, which I have here. Is it okay if I sign them? Any questions or queries? I was just going to ask one question. Have we heard back from the ship at all about?
No.
That's fine. Can I borrow a pen? This one, but you can't put this one. I'll borrow this one. That's spare. Thank you very much. Can I have someone to propose? Thank you very much, David. Val. Is everyone okay to vote on that? Lovely. I'm not voting because I wasn't actually there, so thank you very much.
We actually commend the running of the previous
I thought it was rather slow. Didn't make great television from us. Thank you very much indeed. Right, public participation. We have two people here this evening. First of all, we've got Mr. Owen Green, who'd like to talk to us about issues about running. And we've got a special seat over there for him to sit in the Inquisition.
Well, first of all, thanks for allowing us to come along to your
It's a pleasure.
and express our view. What I want to talk about is these, I don't really call them fun runs, they wouldn't be a lot of fun for me, but these are people come along and they run around the roads of Cottlestock and Blackthorn. And it's organised by a company called Nice Works, and they take place in January and March and have them for a few years now. Prior to when Cottlestock Meadows estate sprung up, which of course it now has. And the Cottlestock Meadows is, in the last two January events, has become a kind of overflow car park for the participants. We don't mind that necessarily, but unfortunately, Cottlestock Meadows isn't really built for taking 100 or so cars. The organisers, they do position a couple of marshals at the top of the road. So right now, there's only one entrance and exit to Cottlestock Meadows. And they position a couple of marshals there who then direct cars down to park on the estate. And what's happened the last couple of times, the last two Januaries, the participants will park there on pavements, blocking drop curves to driveways. They even park on the actual driveways of houses which they perceive not to be occupied, and I think they can't go away with that. Now, it's quite clear to us that Nice Works aren't actually organising this event properly. It's growing each time. I've only been on Cottlestock Meadows for a year, so I've witnessed two of these events, and it was much bigger this January than it was previous January. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get bigger still. It's quite a nice place to run around and do that sort of thing. It does attract a lot of people in. So this situation is probably going to get a bit worse. And of course, Cottlestock Meadows right now is only half occupied, 50% occupied. So that's going to develop as well. And the roads aren't all made up right now either. And by the end of the year, when the roads are made up there, I would anticipate that the road margins will be, there will be double yellow lines and there will be white lines across prop curves, etc. So whether those sorts of things can be enforced is another matter. So we're a bit concerned about this event, or these events. They happen in January and March, so there's one coming up really soon, so it'll be quite interesting. But it's not only the parking. Parking is probably the worst part of it, because that's something which we do anticipate to get a lot worse. But there is also the actual closure of Cottesmore Road itself. And all this, we believe, is our understanding that this has all been approved by North Northamptonshire Council. And so they have the road, Cottesmore Road, shut off for this event. Bearing in mind that is the only way in and out of Cottesmore Meadows estate. This is very inconvenient, if not been a little bit dangerous. Really. There's a lot of old people that live on Cottesmore Meadows, myself included. We get a lot of deliveries there, food deliveries, etc., 7 days a week. So this is causing some concern. The third part of this, I guess, is what I think has incensed people to speak out about this, is the actual attitude of the participants themselves. Not only through the parking thing, when we try and explain, well, people can't move their cars around and try and get people to move, we do get a little bit of abuse, etc. But we've had the fact that Nice Works do not provide toilets and changing facilities. We have people stripping off in the road, just literally stark naked in the road, in front of lounge windows with this plenty of kids out. So it's altogether quite an unpleasant situation, I think, which we have the opportunity. I mean, these runs are about, I don't know when they started, but Nice Works, when we tried to communicate with them, their attitude is, well, our runs have been going longer than Cottesmore Meadows. So, which we obviously think is a crazy situation, but that's probably true. But now Cottesmore Meadows is there, then they have to think carefully about how they run these events. Whether Cottesmore Road itself is the right starting and finishing place, for example, is a matter. It's a very dangerous road, as I'm sure you will know. And I think I didn't see a policeman there, to be honest. The marshals that were there, they were there until the runners went off. There was a couple of hundred of them charging down the road. And then the marshals disappeared. So we had reports of people trying to drive up the road because the road was then open, and there were like 200 runners coming down the middle of the road. So it's not well organised. I think this is the main thing we think about. As residents of Cottesmore Meadows, we don't want to put the mockers on any of these sorts of events, of course, but we perceive a potential problem moving forward with this in terms of the numbers, and I think there's stuff that needs to be done and considered right now before it gets too bad. We were thinking about, we don't quite understand why it was North Northamptonshire Council that seemed to approve all of this. We thought it would have been more.
They're the highways authority, so they're responsible for all the roads and road signs and everything.
Clearly, they had a very good job, in my view. So the marshalling of that, it was appalling this time around. We've had people, even participants, we've had people we've offered for them to use our news for it because there's no toilets available, and they say it's one of the worst events, but they still keep coming back there, so there's obviously something about. But yeah, there are those sorts of issues, and I think there's sorts of loads of things I think we can do, and I think if the residents were a bit more involved with Nice Works, or if we could set up get some sort of meaningful communication with Nice Works and North Northamptonshire. We've tried both, and Nice Works really aren't very receptive to the residents making any approaches to them, but so we get kind of fobbed off with them. North Northamptonshire, I think that they would welcome a response, but it means we've got to get, it's almost like a petitioner type approach. They want a large number of people to make complaints, and then they may do something about it, but that's the kind of stand. So that's where we're at. We feel a little helpless with another. It'd be very interesting to see what the March event is. My understanding again is that the March event is more like a half marathon or something, so it's longer than the other.
Yeah, it's 20 mile, 10k and 5k.
There are 3
That's
challenges.
No, that's this one.
So that would be, I don't know where the rest of these people park. I mean, Charlie can't park,
March 7th.
the George and all the other streets.
If I could just quickly read off what they say on the website about parking. There's strictly no parking at the school, so it's based at Outdoor Primary or its driveway. Please park on the local roads and adhere to any current parking restrictions that may be in place. Please respect local residents. Do not park across gateways or entrances. We would advise leaving plenty of time to find a place to park. There's a small amount of parking at the Oundle Library and Town Council building, and one further away at the drill hall, but be prepared to walk 10 to 30 minutes. Alternatively, you can park along the road, but if this is on the route, then along Blackthorn Road would be best. Cotterstock Road past the start line needs to be kept clear of cars, so clearly we're in their parking strategy, but we haven't been involved. I'm just aware of time, we need to move on with a few things. Are there any questions that anyone you want to ask, Rupert?
Who have you contacted on the Northamptonshire strength?
We
Which particular officer?
The police guy, we spoke to the Declan, the police guy that had his surgery downstairs the other day.
Yes, I take your point, but have you had any ad hoc contact with one of the more senior Northampton Highways officers?
No.
You haven't?
No.
Have you thought of taking it up with one of our Northamptonshire councillors for the Oundle Ward, like Councillor Helen Harrison?
Haven't done that. We contacted Northamptonshire Council through their website, and we were speaking to NFICI.
Well, that's rather a broad front strategy, which frankly sometimes gets one nowhere much in particular. So frankly, this thing going to senior level, but I think something comes down to enforcement. When there are parking restrictions, they have to be enforced, and that's largely a police matter.
Yeah, well, look, from where I sit, getting to high-level people in Northamptonshire Council won't be as easy for me as it might be for you guys. So that's one reason, perhaps, why we're here. Also, when it comes to enforcement, I think there is more that can be done than currently is. I think that's inevitable. But we're not in a good position right now because we're on a building site, so we don't have road markings, etc. So there wouldn't be much that could be done in the way of enforcement until that is completed, which will be by the end of this year. So what I'm saying is, and I said before, we're kind of looking forward. Right now, I think we've got a kind of manageable situation, but my perception is that maybe next year or the year after, it won't be that manageable unless we've got things in place now. And I think to have that discussion with Northamptonshire Council at a higher level, I think would be a very
Emma? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to ask what exactly you would like us to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. One is then, well, we've identified one, and if we need to be speaking with Northamptonshire Council, then some kind of lead into it, because we won't get that as residents through their website. We don't get that far. So that's one thing that I think we would need to do. Also, I think through Northamptonshire then, because they're the ones who are giving approval for this, they have the link in with NiceWorks, who are responsible for the organisation of the event and not doing a terribly good job at it. And I think that's where a lot of the problems come from. So maybe through Northamptonshire, we might actually be able to talk to the right people. And from our side, get a bit more involved and get some organisation into this event, which if people want to do it, that's fine with us, but not at our expense and anxiety, that's what we're saying.
Emma?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, probably because the road's not adopted, that's probably why highways aren't.
Oh, yeah.
Could be able to do that. But the other thing is, we obviously close the road off for events that we hold. And through that, I have to go online to the event management portal, put everything in, and it all goes through the police. And they are looking at things like marshals, how many people. So it'd be interesting. I mean, I'm assuming that NiceWorks are doing that, but I might be able to just try and find out through my contacts whether they are doing that. If they are, then I can also say there's the problems that you had after this event. So that might get picked up for the one in March. So I'm trying to
They've got a TTRO in place, but we can certainly raise that. We've got an agenda item to talk about this later on. Do we want to talk about it quickly now and then knock it on the head, or is that possible? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, you can change, you can move the item up if you want to.
I was going to make a quick suggestion to see what people thought, whether we as a council asked Emma to write a letter to Niceworks, or whether in the next couple of days I made an inquiry to Niceworks. They've just been on Facebook recently looking for other run organisers locally and put a couple of named items up there.
Is that how you got the message?
That, no. I actually was looking for a mattress. And also we can easily put you in contact with Helen Harrison and Jason Smithers, who are two ward councillors. I do a mayor's report that we're talking about tonight. I can put March the 2nd down as one of those things. I send them an email tomorrow with that on, and I could ask them to get in contact with you. And he's the leader of the council. And at least it would get you that high level communication.
Yeah.
John?
There's also a point that they have their headquarters for the day at the primary school. What involvement does the primary school have, or what influence can the primary school have over the organisation of it? Presumably, that leads to two questions. One, have they tried to organise it themselves at primary school level? Why? Two, why did these people choose Andrew in the first place? What was the initiative? How was the initiative born? Because if there's a local organisation that's asked them to host it here, that might be another route to go down. But from a practical point of view, Helen Harrison, Jason Smithers, and the primary school. What are you doing at the primary school? Why aren't you parking there? Are there toilets there? It says on the website there are toilets there, so they should be changing there, or a screened area where people get changed. So I think there's, from an authorisation point of view, councillors, from a management point of view, the school.
And maybe, Emma, if you dig in with your events management portal, because if they're saying they're doing A, B, C, and D, and they're not doing A, B, C, and D, then they should be held to account.
It might be worth doing that before we speak to Helen Harrison. Because if we say to Helen Harrison, their event management thing said this, and they're doing that, Helen.
Yeah, so maybe they can get the TRO to close the road off, but if they're not uploading all the information onto the event management portal, then NNC and police and everything don't know about anything about it.
I think you've got to do some digging first.
Yeah.
And once you've done some digging, then we
Then
decide
have the conversation.
That's fine. Is that okay? Yeah, brilliant. So we'll put out feelers as and when we can. The other thing is I'm working on March the 2nd, but if anyone's free just to wander around and observe, that would be helpful, just to get an opinion.
I'll do that with my camera.
Oh, be careful saying that. Lovely, thank you very much indeed.
As much as I can get.
And now, as a bonus, we've got another neighbour from Coniston Meadow, Steve, otherwise known as Steve, who wants to very quickly talk to us about Speedwatch. It's not on the agenda, but it'll save us an issue, and given what we're talking about later, it makes sense. So, Steve.
Again, thanks for allowing us to have a talk. So I contacted the Northampton Police who wanted to set up a community speed watch, but again, for Coniston Road, funnily enough, you'll be aware that just outside the primary school there is a zebra crossing, and there has been a number of near misses on that road this year. Myself, I've probably nearly been hit 4 times with my dog, and I get it from all of the neighbours saying we're constantly, people are not just either not stopping or seeing the crossing really late and basically going too fast to be able to stop. So one of the things that Declan, the police officer, suggested was there's this community speed watch, which I've never heard of before. So I looked into it, contacted Northampton Police, and they said, yeah, we can easily set one up. There isn't one in Oundle currently. It's easily done. You need support of your local town council. Hence the reason why I emailed them and said, I'd like to get your support to do that, because the speeding down that road, even though we've got the flashing signs you come into Oundle now, just before Godstock, is ridiculous. And people coming from the George or coming from the other way, the speed is horrendous. And there's a school there as well, which I can't believe. And the school have actually put up a sign themselves saying 20 mile an hour, we've suggested 20 mile an hour. Unfortunately, it's on the side of the road that nobody can see unless you're walking past it. That was it, that was just as a very.
That was great. John?
Is Operation Snap still a thing?
I'm not sure. What is
So
Operation?
a few months ago, it was on council agenda a few months, maybe a year ago, where Declan was saying if you take a picture or a video and upload that to the Northampton police site,
Yep.
they will prosecute.
Really?
So maybe you guys can set up a rota
Yeah,
and swamp them, because they don't like doing it, because it costs manpower, but it might persuade them to put a speed ban up there and get some.
yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. One thing we don't, obviously, I can't tell what speed these people are doing, other than it looks too fast to me for the road. I can't tell if they're doing 30 mile an hour or not without having some sort of device to tell me that. But yeah, I like the suggestion. It's just obviously getting the camera out, they're probably gone. And they've already gone past.
That's what I suggest. That's why a rota might.
Yeah,
It might not. It might be too much.
yeah.
You might get a few people below 30, and it might just be worth looking at those that really.
They really are. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. We're talking about speed later on. I'm going to talk about this petition that we've just been given about speeding as well, which is ironic and relevant. Yeah, I'm sure if we wanted to put this on the agenda next month, we'd give you a whole lot of support. I was involved in the last community speed watch, and I'd be happy to volunteer again.
And Declan's done some speed checking
Yes.
in various different roads. He might go up there and do it because he can ticket people.
Right, okay.
So,
The other thing is we've got a report coming tonight from our speed indicators, the two that are now around town. And it is interesting looking at those. The data from all of them is the average speed is much lower than you expect.
Right.
So, it's nearly always below 30, and that limits what highways would do and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're also been talking to highways about gateways and various other things. So it's something we're aware of. But again, our powers to do anything are limited. But the best thing we can do is be a catalyst and work with people and try and get somewhere. So
Get the
thank you.
data and then hopefully we'll be able
Yeah, thank you for your attendance tonight. Thanks for
Thank you very
listening.
much.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Right, I think that's everything. So you're free to go. Let us sit through the next 2 or 3 things. Thanks very much indeed, both of you. 24138, consideration of requests from interested parties. Emma, anything, anyone? Just those two, lovely. 24139, North Northampton Council. Nothing. Just for interest, Rupert and I were in a meeting with Helen Harrison in here on Friday, so she's been around recently. Town Matters 2414001 to receive a report on ideas for V-Day. This is, I put a paper in, it's changed a little bit since then. It's just something that came out of a couple of conversations with the British. They're still mulling over a few things. Put down some ideas. We've made inquiries with the Lord, and he's able to come to Oundle between 2:30 and 4:30 on Thursday. And really, that's a good opportunity, hopefully, for us church to maybe off the road, depending on road licenses. It sounds like they're easy to get. And then do something at Flettonfield that the Flettonfield Association could host. And then I had the idea over the weekend of maybe inviting anyone in town. I think there's someone that's just gone over 100. Anyone that's in their 90s or maybe their 80s who remembers V-Day to come to an event, a tea in Fletton House here or somewhere. So anyhow, there are the ideas. I thought it would be a good idea to put them before you, see what you think. If you want to crack on with it, the school's generally quite willing to try and get some sort of music together for the event, maybe some dancers. The Osio concert recently in St. Peter's had the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy played, and they might be able to get some of those singers. The only problem with that is it's the middle of exam season, so who's available might be limited. But again, there's feelers being put out there. There's lots of possibilities, and we could go bigger. Clive, the tree warden's quite keen to plant a commemorative tree to open Flettonfield and maybe try and get some of the mascots they've got ideas for on Flettonfield designed at least. So he's going to the primary school in March to talk to them about stuff. But it's really a matter of, if we're going to bring it all together, you need to be happy that that's the correct direction of travel. So any questions or queries or thoughts? Max first and John.
It's just an observation. I mean, I know the ED day is on a Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
but sorry, is it a public holiday that I'm unaware of? I mean, who is actually going to actually be able to attend this?
Anyone? No one? Anyone? I don't know. We got the request back in September, October, didn't we, from the pageant master who was making an inquiry about whether we were going to do things.
I'm just assuming it's a normal school or working day for.
Yeah.
No, it is. There was talk of a public holiday, but it's just that. So one of the alternatives is, rather than just shutting the road by the memorial, which the British Legion are quite keen on, is doing something in and around St. Peter's, in front of the Great Hall, something or other. But if people aren't bothered, then we can it.
I just wanted to look at market on over the weekend rather than on the actual Thursday. But if we're being told VDAD is on that day and that's day, I'm just worried that it'll be a lot of effort will go in when it's a normal working day and school day for everybody.
It doesn't need to be anything big. It's not a big event. I think the Fletton Field opening is the big event, really. It's an excuse to get the Lord Lieutenant here, really. John?
Similar concerns. We've got the market in the morning, this in the afternoon. If the RBL is providing most of the resource to manage this, then fine. If they're not, have we got the resource in the council to manage it? You'll be at school, presumably, so...
Not in the afternoon.
Sorry?
Not in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Part-time. It's just the amount of resource that we'd need, a question about the amount of resource we need at council staff level on a day which is a normal working day, immediately after the market. So if it's manageable, fine. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm saying that's a consideration in making the plan.
No, understand. I think the only manageability issue is the road closure. Everything else can be hosted by others.
Okay.
I think we need to do something.
Mhm.
It's really important. But I know obviously the 8th of May is super important, but could you not shift celebrations to the Saturday?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If that's what people want to do, the only thing,
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, I think it's a great idea, and if we could turn this into a bit of a street party type thing.
It would be worse the Saturday after because that's farmers market.
Yeah.
Second Saturday.
But you could have it in the afternoon, couldn't you?
Farmers
After
market goes on till
farmers
3
market.
o'clock.
there won't be any bans on a Saturday from the school because of sports competitions.
We are being encouraged to actually do it on the Thursday.
Yeah.
And they've got all of the beacon lighting and
Yeah,
prayers.
that's at 9:30.
It's all happening on Thursday.
So there's no,
loses impetus if you don't do it on the
Yeah.
actual day.
and it doesn't need to be a big public event. It's really an excuse to get the Lord Lieutenant here, tick one box off, maybe do something here or somewhere else for some of the elderly, and then Fletton Field opening, which gives us a good timeline to get jobs done by. But again, if there's no enthusiasm, I'm very happy to pull the plug.
Well, I was sharp slightly to kind of find the clockish, so. that
The
there
Lord
is-
Lieutenant's got to be in Brackley for the evening, so he's given us 2:30 to 4:30.
I'm supportive of it if we've got the resources to manage it. What you said is we only have to look at the road closure if we can manage that. Everything else has been done, sorry, Bob. Everything else has been done by the RBL. On that basis, why shouldn't we?
I
Particularly if we
didn't
get
say it's
the
been done by the
Fletton Field thing
RBL.
out. Sorry?
It's not being done by the RBL. It'll be done by the school, the RBL, Fletton Field Association. And again, we don't have to go too much further with the plan at the moment. But,
No, I wasn't putting my hand up.
oh,
I
sorry.
was holding my
Dave?
head up. Sorry.
Well, I agree with Councillor Bull. I mean, I think we definitely have to mark this event. And if the encouragement is to do it on the day, then I think we do it on the day. I think it's a good idea to link it to get the Lord Lieutenant here for the Fletton Field opening. And as Councillor Wade says, I mean, if we can control the amount of input that we have to have into that event, so that we're not overstretching ourselves, then so much the better. I'm also somewhat conscious of the fact, of course, that we will have had an election literally 1 week beforehand. Who knows which of us sat around this table may or may not be councillors on the 8th of May. So, but I think we should, I think it'd send out completely the wrong message apart from anything else if we were seen to be kind of minimising.
Thanks. Make a compromise proposal. May the 8th is VE Day and the LL is available and has been primed to cut a ribbon probably somewhere near Flettonfield. And as such, I think we should probably take advantage of that and formally open Flettonfield. And mark VE Day at the same time. However, in addition, we plan later in the year, hopefully during a summer month, where we can have a much more public celebration of the opening of Flettonfield. Because this, I think, will bypass the public. I think we should celebrate it in a much more open way. With music, perhaps, with all sorts of things. We've had fêtes there in the past that have been very successful, and have that as a public opening.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is really an opportunity for a photo shoot. Wow.
Well, we have to remember that the Lord Lieutenant is actually the Queen. In a way.
The king, I think, of my
Shame mate, the King, and therefore we can't be telling the King what he's going to be doing.
No, but he is very keen to come to Moundle.
That's what I mean, we
yeah.
should have him when he wants to come.
Okay, and also he's also asked that
Absolutely.
it's better for him to come to 2 or 3 events rather than a single event. And therefore, one of the reasons to do it on VE Day was that he's available, he's keen to come. If we ask him to come to that and we do the opening of Flettonfield at the same time, it ticks 2 birds per head.
It's a no-brainer.
So, do we want to look at a road closure or do we want to ignore a road closure? The concerns that event management portal would raise were marshalling, whether they be costs. I put in there the new, it's HVM, something vehicle management, these new devices that are being put everywhere to stop cars driving into crowds. We could look to hire those, buy those, whatever. Or would we rather find a way of doing it, for example, St. Peter's, Cloisters,
I think
off the road?
Keep the E-Day itself, May the 8th, as simple as possible.
Right. So, general view, don't close the road? I'm looking for nods or shakes or...
I think so.
It would only be New Street.
Well, what made earlier on, it's a normal working day, so there'll be people going about the normal working life of business. And sadly, it happens that lorries go up New Road.
And parents will be picking up children from school when the LL is here.
Yeah.
Is that hand or?
I mean, I don't know what the RBL were thinking in terms of their role within this, but presumably, I imagine some sort of wreath laying at the memorial, which is quite difficult if you don't shut off the road. On the other hand, if you held, with the vicar's permission, some sort of a service at St. Peter's and did everything there, then that might be a way of avoiding the problems.
Yeah, the RBL was certainly thinking of a reclaim, but I think my view, for what it's worth, is it's not a wreath laying event, it's a celebratory event. If you look back at the photos of the town on May the 8th in 1945, there's an awful lot of people out drinking, sitting on trucks, doing various things they shouldn't do, and they're not laying wreaths. So that's why I suggested in there laying a garland somewhere as a celebration rather than as a wreath. But I think the RBL were more wreath laying based. They're meeting a week in May, next week. I'm happy to feedback stuff to them. But if we're generally thinking avoid the road closure, then simplify it, that's fine. It might limit how dancing can be.
The only thing I would say, I think if you close a bit of the road, it does make people aware of the actual occasion, and it is quite an important occasion to actually mark, and especially the children. So I was also thinking of Flettonfield, if you were going to do it, could you encourage the school to have an afternoon tea party with the school children? So you extend that kind of celebration into Flettonfield.
Which school?
At the primary.
I don't know, we haven't thought of that.
Don't know, just as an idea, if you don't get young.
The other thing is whatever we do on Flatton Field, if it's a big event, it's May, early May, if it rains, problems. That was the benefit of doing that tarmac. Okay, is that okay with, yeah, rightio. 24/140/02 to receive an update of the meeting with the ICB. Took place in here last week, put sort of an overview on the mayor's report. Generally, I think quite a positive meeting. Emma, Rupert were both here. Thanks to Rupert in particular for persevering to get the meeting to happen. But we had the chief executive of the ICB with his 1.8 billion spend budget. We had the chief of primary care of the ICB. We had the chief executive officer of Lakeside, the lead doctor at the surgery, our MP, all sitting in the room, and a few councillors and other people as well. But in terms of getting the right people together, and it was interesting, I think, for them to talk to each other as much as anything else. The message was quite positive that there has been change in the surgery and that change is continuing. The ending of the meeting was that Lee Barron suggested we should do the meeting probably in 6 months' time and see where we are. In the meantime, I've been in contact with the ICB and given them all the Section 106 stuff, some of which they seemed unsure about. So they're now going to do digging around this, that and the other. And we can hopefully help them in terms of using our facilities for meeting rooms and non-clinical stuff. So they had a look around all the rooms before they left. So I think it was a good step in the right direction. Again, thanks to Rupert for making it happen. Any questions or queries? No? Lovely. Thanks very much. 24/140/03, we've just talked about NiceWorks. Emma's going to do some digging into their event management stuff, and we'll make contact from there and put them in touch with Helen and Jason. 24/141, council matters, the mayor's report. I'll let you read it. Trees were a big thing, lots of trees being planted, Kia over there. And we've got orchard trees there in the cemetery. Andal Primary have expressed an interest in taking 5 of them, which will be really good. And then hopefully we can fit the rest into the rec, but we'll come to that later on. Good news about some new road mender asphalt, hopefully going on North Street, which will help residents there. A nice example of working in partnership with Prince William School. So they've now named the new extra care home down at St Christopher's Drive, St Wilfrid's Garden, which is a nice link. 2 groups to mention. This one, the Rural Mental Health Group that I met at Barnwell Farmers Market. I think they're in contact with Morag about getting a stand on our farmers market as well. And we mentioned at the Business Association to people, so they're doing some excellent work locally. And the Music Marathon on June the 7th, a group who'd like to try and do some music in the marketplace in the middle of the Soundall weekend, which again sounds great. One other thing that we'll come to later, I've been given this petition about speeding in the town by a resident, which we'll talk about later on. And I've written down here, thanks to Lee for the round table and organising that and letting me have a look around Parliament. I went out to Parliament at the end of January. One utterly important point that was made by lots of people we met is that we can all go into nearly anywhere in Parliament and demand to see our MP. And it's important that residents know that and keep contacting their MP. So, good news. 24/140/102, the client for Emma at all? No, lovely. Again, there's a link from the police liaison representative,
Yes,
David, about
Declan.
a conversation with Declan about things that Declan's hoping to do around and about the town. 24/140/103, the meeting schedule for 25/26. David?
We are going to have to schedule a planning meeting in August. A huge gap between July and September. And that would mean that certain things just will not get commented upon. And it will be sort of, there will be something important come up. So I think we should schedule it for the end of the month, just as we would normally do.
So it'll be the 22nd of August.
Should I say 22nd?
Might there be a
26th?
26, sorry, is week beginning. Yeah. Is that good to add?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
count that in, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Do we need to approve the meeting?
Or with that change, yes.
Yeah, to approve.
Sorry, can I just point out one other thing? Because we had this in this current year. Again, there's a big gap with planning committee between November the 26th and January the 28th. And we ended up having to have a kind of special meeting, did we
Quite
not?
right, we did one on the first Tuesday in January, and we should do the
So it
same.
may be that we just are aware of that and plan it nearer the time and accept this, or whether you want David to think about that now.
I think actually, I mean, it worked earlier this year by doing that. I know it meant we had to schedule a planning meeting and an estates meeting on the same night, and I think we started planning at 8 in order to accommodate it, but that makes sense.
Charlemagne.
I missed that completely, so thanks for pointing it out.
It's, yeah, quite a few other councils do put meetings back to back, don't they? Which at least minimise them.
Put that in, actually.
That would be the 6th of
The
January.
one on the,
But we can accept that with that policy.
So there's an estates management committee meeting in the January the 7th, it says there.
Well, if needed. You know, again, we have to kind of watch what's coming in.
Yeah, that's the wrong year, isn't it?
this, for some reason, the one that's on there is not the one that's not older.
This is last
So
year's.
Meetings around.
This is later on.
Yeah.
Right, I'll send out the correct one to you.
But we've already,
Because-
Yeah, this is last year's.
yeah, but it's got the shears in the
So-
top.
These in my
I
diary.
tell you what, I was really confused the other day, I thought I was be looking at it.
Do you want me to add it into that folder or just email it to you?
Email it all to us, yeah.
Let's just email it to you.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
what I'll say is you want the extra, planning meeting.
I think it can just be provisional, because
Yeah.
it partly depends on
Yeah.
what comes through, you know, Lisa will be able to.
Yes, I mean, if particularly that January one, if we find nothing to do then, or there's a single tree application or something, we might want to find a better way of doing
It's
it.
just an earmark, in case we need it more than anything else.
I'll put them in,
Yeah.
they can always be cancelled.
So are we okay to approve the meeting schedule with that proviso, or do we need to see it for next month?
Yeah, let's see it next
Okay.
week. Sorry about that.
That's fine. 24/14104 to receive the notes from Mancout English Devolution meeting. This was one that I think David Fuller went to. I've read them, they're fairly obvious. My understanding is things for Northamptonshire, or whatever we're called now, aren't that pressing because we've already gone through to a unitary authority and we're not part of any of the immediate mayoral bids. So I think it's just to receive the notes. I don't think we need to decide anything else. 24/14105 to consider and respond to the government's consultation on strengthening the standards and conduct framework. This came up last month. There's lots of exciting questions. Just to refresh your memory, input to how larger council things were being organised was necessarily of any great value, but has anyone got any strong opinions on whether we should add anything to it?
I think you can also do it individually,
Yeah.
having looked at it as well, if you feel strongly about putting anything forward.
I certainly lost.
It's quite long.
It's quite detailed. I lost the will to live looking at it, to be fair. Okay, lovely. 24/14106 to consider response from the Northamptonshire Climate and Nature Action Survey. I've given you some suggested replies. Again, talking of losing the will to live, the screens just keep coming on this one. And we haven't done, I don't think we're able to do about a third of what they want us to. But any thoughts or others, Max?
I didn't know whether or not, it's difficult to tell from this bit of the form. It might come under number 4. Do you do anything else that might involve people? Transition onward is basically what I'm thinking about, because do we not have
I've tried to put in 2 or 3 times, we work with transition animals, but it's asking about what we do. Yeah, so I've mentioned it. And I just worry as well that quite a few things, it's like their last nature strategy that didn't have snipe meadow and stuff in. It all goes into a giant pot and nothing happens to it. So if you're happy, I will press the send button on those. I'll make sure transition animal is mentioned, and we'll see if anything exciting happens. Thank you very much. 24-140-107, an update on the elections in May. They're coming. We need to find lots of people to stand for them. John, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I do actually, if I may. First of all, I've emailed all councillors. I'm planning on manning a stand or the banner in the market on market days to see if I can get, or we can get any more councillors or potential councillors to stand. I can do that on my own, but it would be nice to have company. I did send out an email asking for people to let me know if they could. Max presumably replied and said he couldn't, so it would be helpful if there was some additional support there. Rebecca has been particularly good in providing material for the market, so I'm working closely with her to have stands around to make it at least appear exciting. What would be interesting, and people needn't say anything now, but it would be interesting, certainly to me, but I suspect to others too, to know if people are thinking of not standing in May. And the reason I say that is that I know we have 1 vacancy already, that's a fact. We have at least 1 councillor standing down in May, that's a fact. So we need at least 2 councillors just to fill the gap. And I don't know how many other councillors are thinking of not standing next year in May. If we knew that, it would perhaps give more impetus to the rest of us. But if anybody thinks that they might not be standing in May and want to share that with Emma or with Ian or with me, that would be really helpful. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Let's just clarify, how many councillors will we have then? Because we did a vote, didn't we, about 6 months ago, maybe?
It was
reduced it.
No, that hasn't been
We're still
changed. We're still 14.
Still
So we would need 15 people standing.
And currently we've got possibly as many as 12. We certainly have at least 2 vacancies.
And just on that, I've spoken to a few people recently, and all of them say we're too busy, full-time job, whatever. But the point I've made, I know a number of others have made the point, I know I've heard you make it too, John, is even if you only come to these meetings once or twice a month and you have a different opinion of how Oundle is working, whether it's people parking in your drives or whatever it happens to be, every single voice helps. And the wider our demographic spread, the better. So, thanks to everyone who is on the council at the moment. And if anyone's watching, how many people are watching at the moment? 1 or 2? That's my mum.
If it's your
Oh,
mum,
no, it's fine. No.
She's gone to bed.
No.
Probably gone to bed. Never mind. Never mind. Max.
Looking at the website that you linked to, or the agenda links to, there's some examples of some good posters that various town councils and other communities have produced. So it would be nice if we could do something. There's some lovely model, well, I think really nice models that we could use.
I am working with Rebecca on producing those.
I did notice, I walked into town and there is a poster in, is it the mortgage place on the corner?
Yeah, we left some of them, some of the business. There's also one in my classroom as well.
Yeah.
You missed that. Just on that point, a practical thing, if you look at the information that Emma sent out from Danny, for us to be nominated, we have to fill in a form. I've got a version here. And it's a very long form, which doesn't seem to want much information from me, but keeps asking me for the same information over and over and over again. I have to take that as a paper form to Kettering, NNC in Kettering, between sometime towards the end of March and the 2nd of April.
2nd of April is 4 PM, I think, 2nd of April.
Now I've only got about 2 days between the period, but I'm going to be going to Kettering. and if anyone would like a lift, I can see if I can get a minibus. But the point is that if I took all of your forms and then that was wrong and that was wrong, that would then be redundant and it would all go wrong. So ideally it's done in person. It's the only place in Northamptonshire that they're willing to take forms. It's like they don't want anyone to
Yeah,
say
that's
this. They couldn't make it any harder. Anyhow, that's the way it is. Danny Moody has understood it's a mad idea. We've passed that on to Lee Barron, who thinks it's a mad idea. He's going to talk to somebody, but at the moment, nothing's going to change this year. So if anyone wants a lift to Kettering, let me know. Otherwise, I think that's it. Yeah, everything? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. 24-140-108, to consider dates for the Oundle Town Council Goals and Strategies Workshop. This is from Conversations last meeting. Danny Moody is available on the 13th of March between 10 and 12 or 11 and 1, or any time on the 24th of March. John?
I sent out an email on this one asking people to let me know, just fill in a very simple doodle poll to say if they could make any of those dates. I had one response, and none of those. Max and I can't do it for everybody. So what I'm actually thinking is, given the impending elections, given that few people, if anybody, it seems, can make either of those dates, saying I'm going to can the whole thing until after the election and see if we can get some enthusiasm after then. Because I'm not forcing this through.
Also, I haven't had an email about the doodle poll.
But interesting. Has anybody else seen it or had it? Because I know Max had it because he's replied.
I haven't had it.
I don't remember seeing it. So
maybe we're not ignoring you.
About a week ago.
it was about a week ago, yeah. I sent it to all councillors. So.
I replied to you though.
You did, yes. So you had it, and you had it.
But it wasn't. It was the one about Danny. When I said I'm not available for half the time, like all the training courses he puts on.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go back to him with asking for dates, or do you want me to go back to him and say we're going to
We'll review it
put this
later
back
on.
till after the election?
Okay. Everyone check your spam or junk emails in case all of John's emails are going there.
14th of Feb, St Valentine's Day. All councillors. I had nothing better to do, yeah. But please don't quote me.
Fruit trees.
Pardon?
Fruit trees in there.
I didn't have any emails from the 14th of Feb, apparently.
14th of Feb. And I even sent it out as an emergency, as a high priority. 1646.
We believe you sent it.
But we didn't get it.
Did he get it?
I think what's happened is that councillors have put a rule on their emails which says if there's an email from John Wade,
It's really effective. It's really effective. So for the moment, we're putting that on hold.
Yeah.
I think to defer it and see if there's any interest after the election.
24-140-109. I put this forward simply. I was in Lichfield on Friday evening, and I was aware of this, and I suddenly thought we were at a meeting recently about with the QVH. How do we market the QVH? Can we market Oundle as a place for meetings? The business association were talking about marketing, and I suddenly thought it's probably something we should think about doing something. So I put some ideas on a piece of paper, but I think it will be worth us considering setting up a marketing working party with outside people, experts about marketing. John?
We actually discussed this in July last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the other meeting I chaired when you weren't around. And at that stage, the view was we don't have the resources within the council or within council staff to set up a marketing working party, which I personally was very disappointed by. I'm hopeful that we've got somebody who might be standing for election this year who is a marketeer.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he would be very interested in forming a marketing group then. So I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think working with the OBA and other interested groups in and around Oundle could make us a very marketable commodity. but it needs to be organised by somebody who knows what they're doing and with some enthusiasm. So I propose we look at this again in May or June of this year. Unless people want to look at it before.
First, I like the paper, I like what it was, some ideas in it. However, 2, I don't think now is the time to discuss it. Number 3, I think it needs to be aligned with the vision, and it's about getting ducks in a row. And I said 3, I'm actually going to add number 4. Realistically, I think this is for a post-May council to take up. David?
Well, echoing those points, but the other thing is, if we're not careful, we're going to have a communications working party and a marketing group. And I can't help but feeling that there's a hell of an overlap between the two, and if there isn't, there ought to be. It's almost like the marketing group ought to be a subdivision of the communications working party, but that's just becoming faintly silly. But I do think we should investigate it further. Marketing ourselves, when there's so much to market in this town, is in a sense a no-brainer. It's not should we do it, it's how can we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely right. In July last year, the original proposal, which I put to the communications working group, Ellen will remember, received some quite robust responses, let's say, that was not seen as appropriate by some people on the working group. So the idea was abandoned. Not enough support for, and very strong reaction against. Would that be? Yeah. We should, though, David, you're absolutely right. It's not if, it's how. Yeah. But we need the resource.
Thanks. If I can just come back. When I say now is not the time, I think it's really for a new council post-May. What I would also add to that, and it's partly, I think, some of the issues that David's wrestling with as well, which I have a lot of sympathy with, that we don't want to just create yet another subgroup, and it doesn't necessarily fit very well with other subgroups we already have. I seriously wonder whether or not, because it's such an important area, but one in which none of us necessarily have any expertise, that we would actually benefit from hearing the views of an outside expert.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering whether it might be worth talking to some of those experts now, but if we want to wait, leave it till after May, I just worry that we're going to miss the summer's opportunities. Fair enough. 24-14201 to approve the monthly accounts for January 2025. Any questions or queries on those?
I just have a query about the electric bill, costing the electrics again.
Which property?
I think it covers it all. I don't know, I'm looking at the monthly payments for January.
Oh, so monthly, do you mean the accounts or the payment?
I'm sorry, is it the next thing?
Payments the next one.
Okay, yeah, the other one. Sorry, it's the second one.
Okay, thanks. No?
Yeah, I was just, I wasn't having my hand up, I was just like, doing like that, I'll put my hand up.
Oh, no, it's fine. Val?
Sorry.
No, it's fine, I thought it was for hand, don't worry. Never mind.
Keep the hands down.
Your hands down. So I'm happy to propose that we approve the monthly accounts. John's happy to second it. We all get a vote on that. Lovely, thank you very much. 24-14202 payments. The proposition is a schedule of payments in January 25 as presented are paid up. There's got a question about electricity.
Just about the electricity, because there was a big jump from December to January. And I know that there was, I just spotted there was quite a big difference between the 2 months. And whether that's an issue, because they're not on top of the electric. It's at the bottom, it's under the direct debit. So it's EDF electricity. I don't know, I was just flagging that it was quite a big.
What line number is it?
What line? I'm looking at 47 in January, which is
So that's-
4,990.
25,000, and the,
That's pretty good compared to.
in December is
Okay, so-
38, is 1,000.
Yeah, but that's the it says unmetered supplies there, doesn't it?
The other one does as well, I think.
Yeah, but that's streetlights and,
Yeah, the
So on
only
and so forth.
supplies are things like the lights that we cover, so that's going to be less. So that would just be for that particular.
Yeah, there's quite a big jump, I was just inquiring about.
They're all, well, flat house is metered,
Flat House is half hourly metered.
yeah, half hour metered, it's not,
Just a blank, £3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it just depends on what's within that,
Okay.
yeah. So if I have a look, I can have a look through all of
It
the,
does fluctuate, doesn't it, a bit?
It fluctuates quite a lot.
So I'm just flagging it as a.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But January is quite.
the invoices that we've got in for, this month, although it just says Fletton House, it's for the courthouse, Fletton House, the unmetered supplies and the toilets. So it's for all properties.
So maybe
So I would
it's
say
different.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
And it's dark and it's wintry.
It's higher than it's fun.
Lovely. So the proposition is to pay the payments. I'm happy to propose that we pay them. Anyone want to second it? John is. Are we all okay to vote on that? Lovely. Thank you very much. 24/142/03 to receive the minutes from the Finance and General Purposes Committee. Basically, we made two grants and talked about the things that we're hopefully approving tonight: the financial risk management assessment, the internal control policy, and the internal audit review checklist. So are there any questions at all about the minutes? No?
Do it all together.
Do it all together. Are we okay to approve the financial risk management assessment 2025, the internal control policy 2025, and the internal audit review checklist 2025? John, are you proposing? Are you willing to?
Well, I just want to, I'm not suggesting we do anything different in it, but I noticed that there's the asset register is checked annually, but we looked at the asset register for the QBH last week before, and there's a piano on there, which is no longer owned. So my question is, how often is the asset register actually checked against the assets we hold or don't?
That will come to the main meeting, so before the main meeting, I will go through.
Okay.
So,
We certainly talked about doing the asset register down to chairs in estates last summer. Okay, so we talked about it. I didn't count the chairs in the end, but the QBH one is probably different again.
it's also linked to our accounting package, so I'll work with Paul, anything new that's come in throughout the year that's significant goes on, anything that's gone comes on. But we'll aim to look at that in April.
Okay. So I'm happy to propose that we approve those three things: the risk management assessment, the internal control policy, and the internal audit review. Val's desperate to second it. Thank you, Val. And everyone okay to vote on that? Lovely. Thank you very much. 24/142/07 to receive the verification checklist. Thanks as always to the verification counsellors, Jerry and John. Any questions or queries? Lovely. To a letter of thanks and volunteer action for our grant to them before Christmas. They received another one last month, so that's all. No, last week, sometime recently. So that's very good. Next one down, 24/143/01 to receive the speed indicator device report. Given conversations about speed watch earlier, that seems relevant. Boringly, I've graphed it as I always do. And again, the average speeds, I can't see where I've graphed it, there it is. The average speeds are lower than 30 miles an hour, and we know that that's highways is big thing for getting involved. The Blackthorn Road one was much higher at 11% going over 30. Last time it was 9% going over 30, time before that was 12% going over 30. So there's regular times when people are speeding. The one on West Street, since our speed device seems to have gone there, I would swear cars are going more slowly
I think they
down
are.
West Street.
I've seen one.
And the impact of the 20 mile an hour signs and then the speeding device seem to work very well. So thank you. I was going to ask a question about this, Emma. I know we send it to the police. are we able to publish these PDFs in case anyone wanted to look at them?
I don't see why not, because there's
There's
nothing on there,
GDPR, is there?
there's nothing on there identifying them.
No personal data.
And use it. So I don't know how the best way to do it. Maybe we should start doing it from now on. What to think about maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a good idea.
And just on the same basis, I've been given this, which is a petition done by a resident. She came into a meeting where Helen Harrison, Lee Barron and I were talking about the lights at Danford. She came in and started talking about her dog being injured, and she wanted to get a 20 is plenty petition signed. It was suggested by Helen, if it was presented to us, we could ask Lee Barron to present it in Parliament and a written response. We don't need to decide that now, but it's something that we can talk about. I think, Emma, the understanding is we now have to present it to you effectively, and next month we can talk about it. Is that right? Okay, so,
Just one question.
yes.
I think I'm in on a quarter call. In sum, what does the petition ask for?
The petition asks that basically all of the urban area of Oundle is reduced from 30 to 20. And
Urban area around us becomes what?
20 mile an hour speed limit.
Good, thanks.
I don't think there's any way that highways would agree to it, but I think, having talked to them last week about our own transport agenda, they're not against it in some areas. So that's something we can talk about, and we're going to talk about it. Can we do 20 mile an hour signs now, or since we're breaking the agenda, or would you rather keep it going?
You could, if you want to just leave the transport part up now, while you're talking about transport. You can.
Is everyone okay with that?
That's right, can I just ask, the outside school, you're not really one of these speeds, I don't know what they're called.
Indicated devices.
Indicators along outside that area.
We're only allowed
How to remove them?
I'll need to, because that isn't on the licence, I'll need to check that you've got it on the licence and then get it put on the licence and then we can move it.
I was just thinking that was.
We're only allowed-
Yeah.
We're only allowed to put it where highways or the police let us.
Yeah,
put
they
it.
have to assess it first.
So jumping down to 24.148.01, this is something that the Transport Working Group, it came out of the Transport Report a couple of years ago. We've talked about it, and I think it came up the last, whether it was okay to get quotes. I've been out to, if we did our own, we'd have to get highways approval. The ones that are in town that are produced by NNC are made for them by Kia. They're produced by an organisation in Northampton, which employs people with, I think, educational needs. It sounds like a really good operation. But I've got a quote from them to produce exactly the same signs with our logos and NNC's logos on. Highways are happy to put them up in the places we've talked to them about in the past, which would include probably Blackpot Lane, both entrances to the school, Oundle Primary School on Codstock Road, and the primary school are very keen that we do put some there. And somewhere else I can't remember, North Street.
You said North Street, yeah.
And then those are the prices. These are aluminium ones rather than Corex, so they should last longer. The ones in the town centre, we've got 10 of those, which were given to us by NNC. These would be ours to move and rotate as we saw fit. We're only allowed to put them on street lamp posts, not other signs. So I did a quick count, and there are, in those three locations, a maximum of 69 street lamppost signs. General feeling was that was too many. I think the minimum we could buy was about 20, and we could rotate them around the place. The halfway point is about 40. So we've got a quote there for £295 to buy 20 of them. We've got a street furniture budget with £889 in it, so we could easily afford them. They could deliver them within a few weeks, and we could put them in locations that would be good for people. So, given the Speedwatch comments tonight, given this petition that we can talk about next week, next month, and Highways generally saying they're happy for us to do it, I hope you'd be willing to support at least one of those three options. Unless you want to buy hundreds, but don't.
I'm more than happy to support it, and I think that it's also a good marketing point for the council, because we can then tell people we're being proactive in this area because it's obviously an area of concern. I do share some of the reservations that were floating around on the emails about peppering the town with them, because I think you lose impact if there are too many of them. So having a relatively small number but moving them about from time to time seems the most effective way of using them.
That's fine. And North Northants would like us to move their site every 16 weeks. So that's absolutely fine. Max?
Well, I agree with David, so I would suggest that we go for your option 2, simple as that.
John?
We'd also talked about whether we can persuade residents to put the signs up in there. Necessarily be, well, they would not be provided by this company, but just on ordinary A4.
Yeah, so the idea was that down North Street, there are very few suitable lampposts that you can hang them on. But we could, for example, send residents a PDF they could print themselves to put in their window, or we could provide them with A4 versions to put in their window. I think that's fine.
Do you manage the one as you're coming into Arundel, just before the traffic lights, and then you can turn left for Waitrose? There's one there, isn't there?
That's a high rise.
That one always really irritates me. Seriously, I was coming along there at 24 the other day, and the speed limit's 30, and it was telling me to slow
I think
down.
it flashes as soon as it moves. I think the reason that's there is they're not allowed to put repeater signs. Once you come off the A605 roundabout,
Yeah,
there's a very small 30-mile-an-hour sign there. They're not allowed to put repeaters beyond that until the speed limit changes. So I think that was put in when the roundabout went in, maybe, to remind people it's 30. Because otherwise people think it's 40.
the car behind, and I was thinking, not great.
I'm just thinking if we put something in North Street, we must remember that it's not that we'd have to have the traffic light change the timing, because there wouldn't be a time long enough for the current lines of traffic to get through. You can barely do it now.
Okay.
So I don't know what the rules are about just getting.
Yeah, they have been recently out of sync. They've just re-looked them and resynced them.
Yeah, but when they're in sync, when they, their usual timing wouldn't be good enough. We'd have to get them changed.
My daughter lives in one of the properties in North Street that actually has a driveway. There aren't that many of them. But actually, of course, if you're trying to reverse out, or even drive out into the road, it's quite an art form.
Yeah.
Now, she's fortunately relatively close to the lights, so you can see when people have stopped. And as long as you do it reasonably quickly, nothing's come down the road and come upon you. But I think that actually if we slow the traffic down there, it may cause some unexpected issues.
Well, we wouldn't be able
Need to keep it under
we wouldn't be
review.
slowing the traffic. These are only voluntary signs. So
Appreciate
they've got no
They
authority.
may not have any legal force, but I mean, the whole point of them is to try to alter behaviour. And if it alters behaviour and then causes a different set of problems to the one we've got currently, then it may or may not be better.
Okay. So Max has suggested we go option 2. Is anyone okay with that, or would you rather go with option John?
I'd prefer option 1. We've had this conversation. I think 20 signs moved around every 16 weeks in a year. That's 60 different locations. I think that's 40 signs moved every 60 weeks. You've got 120 locations. Arundel is not that big.
No, I agree with Councillor.
So we're not doing a vote, but just generally option 1 or 2 now? 20 or 40?
Well, no. I'd like 30.
30? Well, could be. We'll go halfway.
I'll go
Reuben?
for 20.
20.
20? 20.
20.
Well, I've already said mine.
40?
20.
So I think the feeling in the room is that 20 is a good starting point.
I don't know how you get that.
20. 5 people. Okay, so I'm happy to propose that we get 20 advisory 20-mile-an-hour signs as per the quote. John's happy to second it. We ought to get a vote for that. Lovely, thank you very much. So back up to 24/144/01, the planning committee meeting minutes. David, is there anything you want to add?
They are circulated, there's nothing very exciting in there. It was a very, very quiet meeting, so I think we can probably safely move on.
Lovely. 24/145 estates. Again, the minutes and the report from the estates committee meeting are here. There's been one exciting addition, which is a high quality garden designer has had his work put forward. We're not on the big screen, so we can't show it. I'm not sure if all of you admired it and thought, who's done that wonderful piece of work? You can see there the attractive neon colours. The suggestion came before the estates committee meeting. We've got a patch of land at the end of the basketball court that Anglia Waters concrete killed all the grass. There's something growing there. It's a mixture of grass and weeds and dogweed and some other stuff. One suggestion that's come before the estates committee a couple of times, partly through my observations of lots of people walking through here, is we could put a path across that area. We've got 11 orchard trees that need a home, and we've also got the idea of putting a wildflower meadow in there. The idea was suggested by the excellent garden designer, which is me, to lay the path route out and plant the 11 trees in the next month or so, and then hopefully